Right, we've covered what trusts are and a little bit about how they work. Last week we looked at just a couple of examples about how they can enable you to direct money to whom you want, when you want. Today, we got to talk about tax. Oh, do we have to? Surely there's more exciting things to talk about than tax. Well, of course there are more exciting things to talk about, but it is important. So let's grit our teeth and man up and see if we can get through it. It's not going to be that long, actually. So let's put 5 minutes on the clock down here. Say a quick thank you to my friends at 7 Investment Management for continuing to sponsor the show. And let's crack on. Remember last week, or possibly the week before, I said that a trust is its own tax and legal entity. Remember that? Well, that means that a trust pays tax. It does a tax return, and the trustees are responsible for assessing and paying the tax to the revenue. It also means that just as if you were to give money to, say, your child or to another party, whatever, there is tax implications potentially of doing so, and it's exactly the same in a trust. Now, as far as the taxation of trusts is concerned, I'm going to massively simplify it. It's just beyond the scope of a little 5-minute video here. Suffice it to say that the taxation of trusts depends on the type of trust, its jurisdiction, you can have onshore and offshore trusts, the kind of assets it holds, the beneficiaries, and whether they have an absolute right to the money or not. It's complicated. Now, if you make a gift into a trust, that is either a potentially exempt transfer or a chargeable lifetime transfer. 2 little 3-letter acronyms that it's worth understanding when it comes to inheritance tax specifically. But whether it's a potentially exempt transfer or a chargeable lifetime transfer, both have implications for you, the giver, and your estate if you unhelpfully die within 7 years, and sometimes longer, of making the gift. Really important to understand that any gift you make into a trust, or to anybody really, they interplay with each other. So whenever you're making gifts, for goodness sake, write them down. Keep a list. If you're in a position where you can make gifts regularly, always write down the date, who you gave it to, and how much. It'll make life a lot easier for your executors one day when you shuffle off this mortal coil. You don't have to give money into a trust, you can loan it if you want. Why would you do that? Well, then the trust has your money and can invest it. The trust pays you back, just like it would pay back any debt, and normally you wouldn't charge any interest because this is your trust. So the trust pays you back, but while it holds the money, it invests it, it hopefully grows, and any growth is outside of your estate. You get your money back on the drip, usually over several years, sometimes even 20 or 30 years, and hopefully you spend that money. And all the while it's being paid back, the trust holds the capital, invests it, and hopefully grows it. All that growth is outside of your estate. Are you getting the idea that this is complex yet? We just can't go into any kind of detail. Well, I could, but you would be asleep in minutes, if you're not already. Wake up. So while it's complex, we're adults and we mustn't shy away from it. So here, finally, in this little mini-series about trusts, are my recommendations for what you need to do if you're thinking about this stuff. Firstly, you need to seek advice, both from a financial planner who can let you know about the financial implications in the context of your wider wealth, and of course from a solicitor, because a trust is a legal document. Secondly, you need to choose your trustees very carefully. These are obviously people you need to trust. They are going to be responsible for executing your instructions on the trust property, and there's a lot of responsibility on them. So choose wisely. Number 3, when considering any planning including trusts, your starting point needs to be what you want to happen. Don't worry about the mechanics of the legal stuff yet. Instead, just write down what you would want to happen with your money, to whom and when. Then you can take that to the solicitor and they can draft a trust or your will to make sure that what you want to happen does happen. Number 4, it's important to understand that anything you put into a trust is no longer yours. It belongs to the trust now. That means you can't access it, you can't enjoy an income from it. It's not yours anymore. And of course that has implications. If you can't access that money anymore, you can't use it. And so you need to understand what the implications are for your personal financial circumstances. You need to weigh the benefits of planning using trusts against the implications for you personally and financially. Weigh the benefits. Take your choice. Number 5, life insurance should almost always be placed in trust. You don't hear this when you buy life insurance online from a cheap comparison site. Putting life insurance in trust has implications, and so you need to understand what they are and seek advice. Get in touch with my friends at meaningfulmoney.tv/lifesearch for help from the very best in the field. Number 6, seek advice. Number 7, seek advice. And finally, number 8, take advice from a competent financial planner and from a competent solicitor. This is a big deal, folks. It's a complex area. There are massive benefits, but also consequences. Like anything, go in with your eyes open and seek advice from competent professionals. Okay, we'll talk about something else next week, but thank you for sticking with me through this little mini-series on trusts. Hopefully that answers the bulk of the questions that people will have. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you in next week's 5 Minute Friday.